Hello, Surge community. Welcome to this week's Surge Watch Party. So glad that you could be here with us today. My name is Amanda Chaco. I'm the director of Surge. And today we're going to be speaking with Aaron Mason of Nextdoor Photos. So please feel free to put any of your comments, thoughts, questions in the comment section because he will be able to answer those for you today. So launched in 2015, Nextdoor Photos is a social impact company that has become a market leader in professional real estate photography, videography, aerials, 3D modeling, virtual staging, and floor plans. This is all done through their proprietary automated process and a model of local ownership. They have seen exponential growth in the last few years, which is being accelerated by recent changes in the real estate market. Aaron Mason is the Director of Expansion for Nextdoor Photos, and he is here to tell us all about it. So please welcome Aaron. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Fantastic. Hey, in typical COVID fashion, I'm working in my basement office. We have 4 sons, 6 and under, so you may hear a WrestleMania outside my door. Full disclosure, that's just my kids beating up on each other.
You know, having sons myself, I can relate. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all doing the best we can under the circumstances, right?
Yes, yes.
Right. Well, thank you for taking the time in your basement to chat with us today. Undercover.
Yeah.
So before we get into a lot about Nextdoor Photos in our conversation, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then, you know, really the story of Nextdoor Photos and kind of the journey of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background actually started in, consumer packaged goods industry. I worked as a sales director for Nestle Purina out in Chicago for a number of years while my wife was getting her master's degree and really enjoyed the corporate life for a while, but then the travel started to eat at me. And so I switched over to a couple of different nonprofits actually doing kind of national and international nonprofit work. And eventually moved to West Michigan about 5 years ago and met up with Taylor Blum and Paul Vanderkyle, who are my good friends now, but they're the founders of Nextdoor Photos. And just we struck up a friendship early on when we moved here, and they asked me to consult originally, just helping them with some of the concept and some of the ideas about how to expand outside of the state of Michigan, because my network and really my career had been outside of Michigan. And so I had a pretty vast network there, and they were just kind of like, hey, you want to help us kind of dream up and whiteboard what this looks like to expand at least into Chicagoland, kind of wrap the lakeshore first. And so we did that. That was back in late 2016, early 2017, helping them do that. And it was so much fun, and we grew pretty quick that they asked me to come on full time onto the leadership team. And at that time, it was 4 or 5 of us, so it wasn't massive. We were a tiny little startup, but what happened early on for Nextdoor Photos was, after the recession, the real estate industry took on really grew some tentacles, so to speak, into some new areas and new directions. It had long been MLS driven, local realtor driven, and all of a sudden, kind of post 2010, the industry shifted to technology. And so you had the Zillows and Trulia and Redfin and even Keller Williams, some of these larger companies that were pushing the online portals, and really it became a virtual experience for the home buyer and seller. And so we kind of jumped in and rode that wave, so to speak, early on. Taylor actually launched a company called Front Door Photos back in 2012. So really the real estate world in West Michigan had not come back yet. But this was early 2012. Taylor kind of launched it as a side gig. And he was kind of one of the early guys to have a drone in West Michigan. And really, the business as a side gig, as we all know as entrepreneurs, if you build a good side gig, it eventually should become your main gig. And that's what happened for Taylor. And so after a few years of doing that by himself and hiring, other Hope graduates and young guys in West Michigan to shoot for him, he kind of reached a point in 2015, 25 years of automotive engineering experience. So very process driven, which helped us build the platform company for this thing to run on. And so, fast forward 4 years now, We've launched 41 locations in 18 states. From the beginning, we had a choice to make whether we were going to franchise or try to own 100% and hire general managers. And in our case, we actually chose something in between that, kind of a hybrid model of actually splitting the equity and doing joint venture LLCs. We've got 41 different entities, so to speak, under our umbrella of Nextdoor Photos. And all of those have a local owner operator and help us kind of push this thing forward. So we're excited. I mean, it took a while to get here, but the growth has been fairly fast over the last few years.
Yeah, amazing. So you have a really, I mean, something I've never seen before in a business model, really unique, where you have a social impact, you have these local owner, franchise-ish
Yeah.
type, locations across the country. And I know that you do a lot of your editing overseas. So can you explain what that looks like? It's like, how does that whole process work?
Yeah, so early on, we realized pretty quickly, Taylor realized it really fast when it was just him, that the hours within a media business or photography business, so to speak, the hours spent are mainly on the editing. So it takes roughly 2 to 3 hours to edit one photo shoot. When he started scaling and growing, we knew there was going to have to be a way to turn things around quickly. And quite honestly, business process outsourcing has been a part of the business world for 20, 30 years. So as long as the internet's been around, people have been sending, work overseas digitally. And so we knew there was a way to do that. So we started kind of digging into that and found out actually that there's a lot of exploitative work that actually happens within those supply chains. And that kind of frustrated us a little bit. And so we figured the only way to guarantee that there's no slave labor within our supply chain was to actually go and launch it and partner with people on the ground in those countries. So that's what we did back in 2016, 17. We went to the Philippines, which is the first, was who we ended up partnering with, which is awesome. And so, yeah, the goal was to create a business where we have more of a redemptive supply chain. And so we partner with companies, editing partnerships that supply us with obviously the supply of editing and quick turnaround within 12 to 24 hours. But the key is that they hire and their labor and workforce is men and women rescued from human trafficking or sex slavery, and those that are underprivileged areas or at severe risk of exploitation. So our goal, kind of big, hairy, audacious goal, is to create a company that employs 10,000 people in that demographic around the world. So we now have 350 people on our editing operations side within the last 2.5, 3 years. That's ballooned from 20 to 350. So it's a growing impact, and that's something that really it drives us. That's the reason, a big reason why we want to continue to scale, continue to grow, is to provide more jobs. But you have to do it profitably. So our whole thing is, man, make profit. We're unashamed about that, but make impact at the same time. And that's kind of the ethos of kind of who we are and what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be profitable. You have to be able to thrive as a business to be able to give back. It's got to go in that order. So let's stay on that for a second. So these women, that are doing the editing, is there like a standard training process? I imagine a lot of these women have never done editing before, or maybe they have. And what does that look like?
Yeah, the majority of our team has never done photo editing or video editing or any of that. So we actually have a 3 to 6 month training process, depending on where their level of computer knowledge is coming into it. And our partners in the Philippines, as well as Nairobi, Kenya, where we just launched this year, they have training programs that we've built with them to our specifications of what we're looking for on the turnaround. So, you have to think we're taking, a pretty advanced, photo editing techniques and systems and softwares, and training someone that some of them have never turned on a computer before, right? Mm-hmm. And we're putting them in a very, very white collar business setting Our spot in the Philippines is in the middle of Cebu City, which is kind of a tech capital of the Philippines. It's a high rise. We've got 3 floors, and so it's a really neat opportunity to see kind of the dignity of work for people that are coming out of those situations and skill sets. And so it's a 21st century skill set that at the end of working for us in a couple of years or whenever they would like, they have something that's transferable to another technology company. But yeah, there's a lot of training that does go into it for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's just amazing. So then what does it look like, the model for this local ownership? So you're going to different states and finding entrepreneurs that are going to lead the effort, that are connecting to realtors, that are connecting to videographers. And then all of a sudden now all the editing's going to the Philippines, and they're getting their photos back. So what are you looking for in those entrepreneurs, and if somebody wanted to get into something like this as an entrepreneur, what could they expect?
Yeah, I mean, we always tell people. Well, I should say the average age of our local owner is 28. So we have some outliers. We've got some folks kind of second, third career in their 50s and 60s, which is great. We run kind of the gamut, but a bulk of our local owners are in that kind of 25 to 35 range. And so that's not necessarily what we're looking for, but it happens to be a kind of sweet spot for somebody to be able to start a business. In your 20s, you don't have 4 kids like myself in my mid to late 30s and a lot more overhead. So what we're finding is, people that have that business degree or background, that are entrepreneurial, obviously, want to own and operate a business, want it to be their primary gig, and that enjoys real estate and that industry, right? Because that's the industry we're serving. And we always tell people it's probably going to be the hardest thing you've done in your life. I'm sure the Surge Network understands that, because we got a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, digging right now to build and scale. And it's really difficult. Although we have a platform and basically a business in a box where we handle all the back office operations and those types of things, the grind of that local owner for a Next Door Photos is the business development and the marketing at the local level and building relationships with realtors, as well as hiring a good team of freelance photographers to execute the business. So, man, we look for gritty people that want to make an impact. I think that's probably a big marker for especially the millennial generation, which I am, that we want to make an impact with our business. So we tend to really hit home within that demographic is people that want to make an impact and make money. And that's kind of the starting point of who we're looking for.
Yeah, that's great. So what does the venture side of that look like as far as like the ownership? How's that split up, and
Yeah,
what capital does somebody need to have to get started as a local owner?
sure. No, it's a good question. So it takes money to launch a business. We know that. Everybody listening to this knows that. So to launch a Next Door Photos location, it takes $27,500 from that local owner buying in to that business, which is, for that, they receive 49% equity in that brand new LLC from NDP. They receive all the systems set up, legal fees, all that stuff, including all of the equipment. So everything you need: drones, tripods, batteries, cameras, lenses, everything you need is kind of included in that. And so, our goal has always been that if our demographic is probably going to skew to the 20s and 30s, most people don't have 100K sitting around like for a normal franchise. And so our goal has always been to try to keep that under 30K as best we can. For a while, we ran it at 25,000. We've just had a few growth opportunities this last year that bumped it up a little bit. But 27.5 to get into a business where, we've scaled these things to the $1 million revenue mark. We just believe is a really, really good value for getting into a business, starting something from scratch, so to speak. Right? We've got the business model and the systems, but yeah, 27.5 to get into a really cool opportunity and run with an impact-minded company.
Cool. So, there have been some, the real estate market's been evolving, right? Over the last decade or so. But now I'm seeing a lot, because of the situation with COVID, about these virtual tours and all these things that the realtors are starting to get into because people are a little nervous about, having people in there touring through their houses, I guess. So yeah, it seems like a great opportunity for next door photos. I mean, how has that impacted your business, and how are you now kind of getting the word out to all these realtors, like waking up to say, wow, I really need something like this?
Yeah.
And how are you reaching them to let them know, like, you are that solution?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, without the stay-at-home orders that kind of shut stuff down, we were operational in 31 of our 41 locations for the last month and a half. So we've still been able to, see revenue. And now the biggest one that hurt us was Michigan. Obviously, real estate was not included in the essential business, which really stinks. But in those 31 that we were operational, we were actually growing. In fact, over the last 6 weeks, we've seen our average revenue per order go up by 38%. Now, the big reason why is the virtual tour add-ons, the videos, the 3D models, the floor plans. Those were all, we already had those in our product mix. But there was a 400% lift on Zillow alone, on Zillow 3D tours. Zillow just reported that the other day, actually, on a national report. 400% lift in orders of Zillow 3D tours. So ironically, as a media provider to the real estate world, as everything shifts towards social distancing, and it might for some time, even as a weekend open house and 50 families walk through it. We're just not going to have that. So there was this incredible acceleration in what was already happening within the real estate world. And the acceleration was to move towards digital, virtual media for marketing those properties. So I think it was already happening. We'd already seen that uptick a little bit, but this just accelerated it. And so for us, for NDP, man, that was huge. So now we actually have a little bit of data we can market to. So our marketing team is working on, getting that word out to our local markets. The nice thing is, how we go to market isn't necessarily massive ad campaigns nationally, et cetera. We really go through our local owners and local marketing. And so that actually, it wins because real estate is a hyper localized industry in and of itself. So that's a big go to market for us is working through, our local owners and the network and the customer base that they've built.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that the situation is giving opportunities to your business, because
Yeah.
some people don't have that going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I think we were positioned well. And to be fair, we've launched 40 some locations in 3 years, which makes us one of the larger real estate photography companies in the country. And just from coverage standpoint, I think it's given us some leverage to go to some of our national clients that we work with in multiple cities and sit back at the table with them over the last few weeks. And we've been able to say, hey, we can cover 40 locations. Let's sign a larger contract. So we're negotiating some of those things. We're having a blast, kind of getting to sit with some of the big boys and have good conversations around that. But I think it's the hyper growth that's kind of put us in that position within this. And so, yeah, I mean, we swung for the fences for the last 3 years and we missed a couple of things. We hit a few homers, or maybe we hit a few doubles and triples, but now we're looking for those home runs. And I think this post-COVID or during COVID is kind of opening up some of those doors.
yeah. So to shift gears for a second, so I know that you guys, at the time of this interview, are wrapping up a crowdfunding campaign on WeFunder. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're doing a Series A right now. We have raised a little bit of capital, mainly from West Michigan folks, family, friends, over the last few years. But this was kind of our first big one that we were going to go for. And we started about 6-7 months ago, actually. And we've had loads of conversations with angel investors and different funds and all these different things. And what we finally landed on a couple months ago, before COVID, a couple months before COVID hit, was to crowdfund it through interview we scored on a great business podcast called Startup Camp Podcast. And we had an interview with them a few months ago, January, I believe. And they loved it so much that they basically, the company that owns them, Raging Bull, wanted to be lead investor, but they wanted us to do it through WeFunder. which was cool because it really, the crowdfunding and some of the regulations that have opened up in the last 2 years around this for companies, it allowed non-accredited investors to get in. And so that was huge for us because we'd only talked to accredited investors up till then. And that really opened the door. So we've had it running for about 3.5 weeks. And we've raised, we wanted to raise 400,000 at a pre-money valuation of $10 million. And we raised 440,000 last I looked. Today's the last day. So whenever someone's watching this, there may be another opportunity in the future. So we'll see. But right now, man, that I would say it exceeded our wildest dreams, especially during a global pandemic. But we've seen incredible traction on that. So it's something that I think is a really viable option for entrepreneurs, even in West Michigan, especially. Man, and we've had a phenomenal relationship with WeFunder through the process. They've been extremely helpful for us because this was the first time we've ever done it that way. So it was a little different, but man, it's been an enjoyable process for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think WeFunder, is a great opportunity and a great platform. So maybe we'll have you back another time to go into more detail about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of companies could benefit, but there is definitely a method to having the success that you've had. So this is great. I mean, this very interesting business model and very interesting opportunity right now. So excited to see the growth that has happened with Nextdoor Photos over the last few years. So is there anything else that you would like to add, or pearls of wisdom you'd like to leave us with?
Pearls of wisdom. Oh man. Yeah, I pray a lot. That's for sure. This has been a ride. So it's been wild. I think largely, this might be some of the first time the Surge Network people are really hearing a lot about NDP. We have largely stayed under the radar. And you know that, Amanda. We've chatted for the last couple of years. We've largely stayed under the radar for a few years as we've built out our platform and our national presence. And we kind of needed to do that because we were really the small fish within this industry. This is kind of hear from us a little bit more, hopefully, and we'll be definitely, we would love to add anything we've learned to the kind of collective knowledge in West Michigan of how to build and scale a business. And certainly we have not done everything right. We are still learning on the fly sometimes and some days. But certainly we've kind of stepped out there and on a national scale, maybe we've put it out there a little bit more even than just here in West Michigan. So our leadership team, our ownership team, we span 5-6 different states. So while the original kind of group of us are here in West Michigan, there's only about 3 or 4 of us here. The rest are Chicago, Ottawa, Atlanta, Dallas. So we're kind of a virtual company, so to speak. But those of us that are here in West Michigan, we want to play a role and just give back and continue to help companies here in West Michigan grow and scale. So anything we can do, I always say, hit me up on LinkedIn. I am wide open for connecting.
Well, that's great. And we will definitely take you up on that offer. So where could people learn more about Nextdoor Photos?
Yeah, I would say you can go to nextdoorphotos.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram. And then you can hit me up or any of our leadership, Taylor or Paul, within LinkedIn. We're happy to answer questions and bring people along for the ride. We do have, if anyone knows someone that wants to launch a Nextdoor Photos, ironically, the state of Michigan is full, I'm sorry to say. But for those of you that have friends outside the state, we are looking to launch another 20 to 40 locations this year. And so that's a fairly easy process. If they want to learn more, go to our website. There's an ownership tab. They can walk right through a whole bunch of stuff, fill out a form. It'll come to my team at Expansion and we'll get in touch with them.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again for spending time with us today. Take care.
Thanks, Amanda.